Blake Stone Aliens of Gold is a first-person corridor shooter from 1993 on the PC. This game brings me back to the days of playing what seemed like countless shareware titles on my 486 DX33 computer. So what is shareware exactly? You don't really hear much about it today, but in the 80s and 90s, it was one of the most robust ways to distribute trial software. The way it worked, a company would develop a game and provide a sample portion for other companies to publish under the shareware license. These were sometimes bundled with dozens of other software and sold at a very low price. Once you purchased the shareware disk, you could install and use the software. Under the license, you were also allowed to give the software to other people to use as well, hence the name shareware. The idea was to get a sample of a computer program or game in front of as many people as possible and hope they would like the sample enough to purchase the full version. The interesting thing about shareware is that you got a significant amount of game in many cases. Games like Doom included the first episode, which accounted for 9 levels or 1/3 of the game. Some games like Doom and Quake didn't initially get a full version release at retail stores. You could only buy the shareware version, then had to call id Software sales number to order the full version. The reason I brought up shareware is that Blake Stone Aliens of Gold was one of the games that I experienced as a kid only in the form of shareware. This version gave you the first episode, which was 11 levels. I didn't have the opportunity to play the full version until recently when I purchased it from GOG.com for around $5. Blake Stone was developed by a company called Jam, and the only 2 games they made before going out of business were Blake Stone Aliens of Gold and the sequel Planet Strike. The publisher was Apogee, which would change its name later to 3D Realms, the company that released Duke Nukem 3D. The game was quite innovative, but unfortunately it didn't sell very well because of one very big reason. Doom was released by id Software just 1 week after Blake Stone hit store shelves. Doom was revolutionary for first-person shooters. Blake Stone and other shooters on the market at the time seemed primitive by comparison. I recently played through the entire game, and when I started to write my review, I stopped about halfway through. You see, I feel like the game wore me out a little bit, and my review at the time was quite negative. Then I saw a short Let's Play video of the first few levels of Blake Stone from one of my favorite YouTube content creators, Big Mac Davis. His positivity towards the game, and with a little bit of time having passed since I ran through what seemed to be a marathon to get to the end of the game, I shifted my thoughts a little more positively. I think that I was a little frustrated with the game due to its massive length and some minor issues in the game design that were exemplified after being burned out. So, with a little bit more objectivity, I threw out my original review, and here I present you with my thoughts on Blake Stone, Aliens of Gold. As I mentioned, this is a first-person shooter that uses the Wolfenstein engine. While the engine provides the core gameplay design and mechanics, there have been many improvements, and I have to say that at the time, this was the most advanced set of upgrades to the engine. The first enhancement is an in-game story. It's pretty simple, but at least it's there. Your character, Blake Stone, is a British intelligence agent and is hunting down the director of STAR, a scientific research facility, Dr. Goldfire. His plans are to take over the Earth alongside his alien cohorts. It's up to you to stop them. Just like Wolfenstein, the game is split up into 6 episodes. Each episode features 9 regular levels and 2 secret levels. One secret level is found by acquiring a key card on level 9, and the other is accessed by finding a secret teleporter hidden on a different level. This means the game is 66 levels total, which is even more than Wolfenstein 3D, which only had 60. This is where I think the game goes a little overboard. Every level is quite large and takes a lot of time to complete. On top of that, the variety of environments are quite limited, and after a few levels, everything starts looking the same. When I played through all of them, I got a little burnt out. If you're just playing a single episode then taking a break for some time, it's fine, but all at once can be a bit too much. I feel like if I just played episodes 1, 4, and 6, I wouldn't have felt that way afterwards. The level layouts are pretty large. There's a fixed grid size for every level, and the game designers used up most, if not all, of the grid space each time. The levels are broken up into floors that you need to progress through. You start on level 1 and need to get to the boss on level 9. To progress to the next floor, you'll need to find a red key card to use the elevator. Unlike other FPS games of the time, you can move between floors. This means that you can backtrack if you missed something, or if you take too much damage from a boss, travel back a few floors to heal up. Another much needed quality of life improvement for shooters that's included in this game is an auto map. Not having a map was a big issue with Wolfenstein 3D and many of its successors. Opening the map screen allowed you to view where you've been and which doors are accessible or need a key. You can also see the kill count, score, and overall completedness of the level you're on, which is something that not even Doom showed you until you completed the level. Levels are very maze-like and full of secrets. You'll do lots of exploring, and many paths lead to just about nothing except for ammo and health to recover from what you used to get that far. Hunting for secrets can be quite tiring and monotonous due to their placement. Games like Doom hid secrets in a way that made it fun to find, using subtle clues like a mismatched texture or a single odd-colored candle among a group of them. Blake Stone's secrets have no rhyme or reason, and you'll spend a lot of time mashing the interact key against every wall looking for them. There's a wide variety of enemies in the game, all with unique sprite art, and pose unique challenges to the player. There are the human soldiers, each with different types of weapons. The Star Trooper even behaves like the Wolfenstein officer, which plays dead for a random amount of time, then attempts to ambush you. There are also the alien monsters. I was surprised at how many different types there were in the game. You get the lumbering experimental genetic aliens, fluid aliens that move across the floor like a puddle, mutated guards, and pod aliens, just to name a few. The most devastating enemies are the plasma aliens. They'll spawn infinitely from various electrical outlets on walls and will kill you in only a few hits. Luckily, you can save your game at any time, preventing too much lost progress. Each enemy has a unique attack animation, with the alien monsters able to shoot projectiles. The humans have dialogue for when they are alerted to you and when they die. The sound quality of the audio samples is pretty high, too. The death animations are spectacular, and they're all quite gory. Every episode has a unique boss alien that you'll have to fight in an arena battle. These are all pretty fun, but can be somewhat easy if you have some of the stronger weapons. I found myself hiding behind walls and popping out to gun them down, and sadly, by doing this, I missed all of the boss death animations. In addition to enemies, there are various scientists throughout every level. Some of these are enemies and will shoot you if you're in a fight with other enemies or try and interact with them. But some of the scientists are informants and will give you hints to help you with the level, hints to find the secret teleporter, and will even give you money and extra ammo. If you're going for 100% completion and maximum points, you want to make sure you don't kill these informants, and I guarantee you, they will always get in the way of you shooting someone else. Another really interesting modification of the Wolfenstein engine is the vending machines. Dead enemies will drop coins, and informants will sometimes give you coins too. You can use these in the vending machines, which dispense either a cold drink, or as the game says, something that resembles food. These will restore a small amount of health. There are only 5 weapons in the game that you can collect, and they all use the same ammo. If you run out, you can use your plasma pistol indefinitely, but after each shot, it takes a few seconds to recharge. The plasma discharge unit is like a rocket launcher and is pretty fun to use, but all the others are standard pistols and machine guns. The controls are very responsive, and your movement is very smooth. In fact, it's almost too smooth. I think it's because there's no weapon swing as you walk or run like most modern shooters, so Blake's movement seems a bit too robotic. But it's really only a minor complaint. The graphics are colorful and there's a lot of detail in the sprites and textures. Each episode has some unique wall textures, but many of them get reused a little too much, and most levels feel like the same thing over and over again. There's also a lack of unique floor and ceiling textures, which I think is a limitation of the engine, unfortunately. The engine also doesn't support lighting effects, so every level feels like you're walking through an office building or department store with consistent overhead lighting. The sound is pretty good. Effects can be produced either with the PC speaker, which I don't recommend, ad-lib, which is also pretty low tier, and digitized sound effects, which require a sound blaster or compatible card. The digitized effects sound great and utilize very clear voice samples, as well as some great sounding effects for guns, doors, and other interactions within the game. The music is composed by Bobby Prince, who wrote the music for the Commander Keen games, Wolfenstein, the Doom series, and even some Duke Nukem 3D tracks. The music is pretty catchy, but if you're listening for those metal-inspired tracks like in Doom, you'll be sorely disappointed. The only bad thing about the music is that there aren't very many tracks for the levels, so by the 5th floor of the episode, you'll be hearing a lot of repeats. Overall, this is a fun game to play. Does it compare to the games that started appearing very shortly after like Doom, Quake, or Half-Life? No, sadly, but it holds up as a solid first-person corridor shooter. It has its quirks that come with the Wolfenstein engine, like the small amount of textures, and a somewhat poor system of secrets, and a limited weapon loadout. On the other hand, the enhancements like the informants, storyline, and map, so you don't get lost, makes this feel like a much improved version of Wolfenstein 3D. The sci-fi theme also gives the game a breath of fresh air compared to other shooters that were available around the same time. You can pick this game up on either GOG or Steam for $4.99 currently. While these versions are completely playable as they come with the DOSBox emulator, I'd recommend picking up the Beast Stone source port in addition to the game. The source port is free and will run the game at modern computer resolutions, as well as allow you to easily configure the sound and map the keys to take advantage of the WASD style or use a more modern controller. Just remember that the source port only runs the game's assets, so you'll still need to buy the retail version to play it through Beast Stone. Definitely a recommend, though I suggest either pacing yourself or just taking on about 3 of the episodes at once. Since the middle episodes of the stories are just you chasing Dr. Goldfire to his different bases, those are the ones that are most skippable. If you've played this game, let me know in the comments what your thoughts are. Thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Until then.